Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
There was something quite amazing being in Abbey Road, listening back to I'm Too Sexy.
Hello.
That's what you went for.
Yeah, took me ages to come up with that.
Pause for 20 seconds. That was good.
Hello. Yeah. Drum and Drummer, yo, what's up?
What's up? We got a guest.
Yeah,
we haven't had a guest for a while.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Are you recording on QuickTime?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Mr. Jonny Brister.
Yep. First similarity, beyond being a drummer, bald and beard.
Yeah.
And
Criteria
tats.
fulfilled.
Yeah. Exactly. We are hitting the bald beard tattoo criteria hard in this episode.
Yeah.
Before we delve in, how you been? You right?
Good. Yeah. Hot.
It is hot.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I just had I've bought some new cymbals. We're going to delve into that another time because I got some shit that's going to blow your mind, motherfucker. Okay?
Yeah.
I got to save it. I don't want to detract from our chat with Jonny.
No.
I don't want to condense it down to one of these little intros that we shit out.
Yeah.
I want to dedicate a whole episode to not just cymbals but sticks as well. I've been doing some weighing.
Well, yeah, because you bought different brands the other day, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
so we'll save all that because it's very interesting.
I can't wait.
But yeah, Jonny, great lad, great drummer.
Yeah.
Great career.
Yeah.
I mean, should we just go in with it?
Yeah, I'm good as well.
Oh,
thanks.
Well,
Russell.
yeah. George, are you okay?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go in with it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Cambridge?
Nah. Well, I thought you were going to talk about London. That's why I asked.
Well, yeah. I went to London for the weekend.
I went to Cambridge for the weekend. Here's our interview with Jonny Brister.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. You guys got some sunshine?
Yes, indeed. We were saying we don't know if it's too hot at the moment, but it's nice.
So British.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This is
It's a classic, isn't it?
I do it all the time. Do you know, honestly, like I look forward to, and I have to say, I love the sunshine and what it does to the mood. But you get to like this weekend, I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. I'm a spring man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear that.
So
I was just going to say about the sunshine. I think us fellas with the lack of hair is you've got to make sure you're creaming the top of your head.
You've got to be creaming it.
Or wearing a hat.
Got to be a hat.
Yep.
So I had this issue actually the other day. I was in Glasgow and it was you wouldn't believe it, a really hot day. And I was like, right, I've got to wear a hat today. Didn't have any sun cream. And I've got a Rangers hat, but it's hockey, whatever that team is. New York Rangers, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't walk around Glasgow with a Rangers. It's a blue Rangers hat. I don't know how bad it is up there, but I was like, I'm not wearing this. So I had to wear a beanie instead.
What, like a woolly beanie?
Yeah, until I could get to the shop and get some sun cream. You know what? It's not nice when you burn your head.
No,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not. Especially if sometimes I've got if you wear like a baseball cap and you have the back bit that has a little semicircle. I've got a semicircle burn before, which is never
I also love that whenever I meet other guys with shaved heads, this is a conversation, like genuine conversation.
Yeah. Well, we're straight in with the baldness. It is funny. I seem to have it with guys my age, or maybe even older, and definitely younger, come up to me in pubs and talk to me if they're losing their hair, and they'll be like, "Hey, man, is it going to be okay?" And I said, "You'll be fine. Don't worry. Just shave it off.
Yeah.
And get on with your life." But yeah, they seem to attract to me. They sort of,
Well, I think it's like I used to ride a moped, and every motorbike or moped ride, there's a little wave. There's a little appreciation. We're on the road on two wheels. you know. I think drummers. Oh, another drummer. Yeah. And I think it's the same with the old slap tops, isn't it?
It is.
There's an inbuilt understanding. We know we've been through the same thing. We've had to make the same decisions. We have to make the same adjustments to our lives. And I think it can go unappreciated by those with hair and, you know.
I think it's super daunting, actually. I think we all probably lose our hair for longer than we want to admit. I don't know how you guys got on.
Yeah.
But I remember going through that and I was hitting 30 and you go, is this all downhill? Like what happens next? And actually quite recently I had another drummer friend just text me. He's like, dude, I think it's time to shave my head. What do you think? I was like, I've got you. Let's have a chat. We're fine.
You're already 6 months too late.
Yeah. I was like, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I know what it's like. And actually, you guys look great with shaved heads. And I think with the beard as well. I actually could be on this podcast full time, right? Is that the...
Yeah, well, you know, it's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
And you got some tattoos as well?
I do, yeah. Plenty. I think is it you with the tattoo? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I've got one. I'm not quite in the gang yet.
Great. What is that?
It's a fish. Oh, hang on. Headphones are gone.
In fact, I think I remember this conversation you had with Jack Geary. You guys were talking about tattoos.
Yes.
I do remember this, yeah.
Yeah, because he's got he's got ramen tattoo.
That's right. Yeah.
Something else, which I thought was great. Right, should we talk drums?
Absolutely, let's do it.
I don't know where to begin. I mean, I guess begin with you're playing for Jake Shears currently.
Yep.
Let's begin there because, I mean, you recently supported Duran Duran on tour. I wanted to ask about that because I saw some of the pictures on Instagram. Those were big rooms you were playing in. How was that? How was the support tour and how's the Jake Shears tour?
Everything's amazing about it, actually, I have to say. So, firstly, with those sort of bigger rooms as a support, it can be really tricky with... I've done the first support before. I've not done the one-up, which we've just done. Mm. And often there's people walking in and you're trying to gain their interest. Whereas with this, we're playing scissor songs, which are like, you try and find me somebody that doesn't know those songs. Like they are massive. And I think with Jake, he's just had a new album come out last week. So that really is the goal here, is like promoting that. But also going, I'm this guy, you might not know that. It gets people interested. And also everybody's up singing and dancing. So I had the best time. The Duran team were amazing. Very supportive, very like, I think just the fact, just champion us as well when we'd come off their dancing side of stage. So I had a really great experience. We've got a really great team as well. So I would say some of the best shows I've ever done, just in terms of like reaction of crowd.
Yeah.
And also my family came, and to see the buzz that they got when I saw them. They came to Birmingham show. And I always love that, you know, when you've got a set list in front of you and you're like, you know, you're cheering now, you wait till you see what we got next. Because it's like another banger, another one. So overall, really, really enjoying it, really happy. And yeah, those shows are great, and Duran are amazing, you know.
Yeah. Were they the biggest places you played then? Sorry, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've done an arena tour before. I think the biggest is probably, I remember doing Paris Main Square with an artist called Joseph Salvat, which I was with for a long time. And I think someone told me that we were hitting sort of 45,000, but that was more of that wasn't our event, as it were. We were playing an event, but I remember that being really big. Yeah. But I guess, yeah, I've not done stadiums. That's the goal. I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, with playing Jake stuff live. So was it a mixture of Scissor Sisters stuff and his new stuff? And is it just live you've been playing with him? Yeah,
so we are doing both. So like I said, the goal is the album, but because he kind of was one of the main songwriters, it was him and I think, is it called Baby Daddy? Is the other guy in Scissors? They were the two songwriters. So it's not as though he's performing someone else's songs that someone else written for him. And they were a band, and they were a great band. And I really dug deep on those, especially those first two records. I don't know if you know them very well, but they're great records. Yeah. And also chatting to him about that, and they made that in their apartment in New York. I love all those stories. So yeah, we do a mixture of both. New album's really great, and then obviously that was like a 45-minute set, and then we just did some headline shows, album launch. That was an hour and 20, which is a real workout for me. It's literally non-stop. I have to plan to get a bottle of water. And there was even one time I was like, right, cool, I don't play my second snare in this song. So I'm going to put my towel there. So I'm playing, we quickly stop, grab my towel, poke my stick in my eye. Honestly, like really hit. And it was one of those moments where you're embarrassed because you're like, who saw that? Did everybody in the room see that? And I think actually it was probably just the tech team on the side that saw me just literally stab a stick in my eye. And I'm obviously fine. But yeah, so it's like, that's a real workout. So we're doing a mixture of both. That's really fun. I really love being a part of a campaign. You know, there's a goal behind it. You know, they want to sell records. They want to go and tour it. I think touring is such a huge part of it now. And of course, I'm super happy we're playing these old songs because they're so good. Like when you look back and you think about that time when I hear these songs, I really remember that. So to play that with Jake is really cool, and I'm really enjoying that actually.
Were there any like challenges learning any of that older stuff, or how did you go about, translating those records into the live show on the drums? Yeah,
that's a really good question because I think often that's dictated by. I saw a smile there. You like that? I saw that. There's obviously like something going between you two there. It's good.
Yeah. Who can get the? That's a good question from Mark from the guest.
Okay, that was a really good question.
Thank you.
I'm going to give that really good. And I love the smirk. Because, you've got a musical director who has got a vision, who's trying to deliver that for the artist. So a lot of the Scissor stuff, it's already been done. They did it for a long time and they did it very well. So they were kind of definitely my references. I was sent these live videos where I think I would say I would respect the song, take what they had done with it, but also then put my own touch on it, I think is what I will try and capture. And then I'll kind of base it on conversations I have with the MD. So I could tell from the MD that he really wanted it as close to note for note as we could. So it was difficult in the sense of you can interpret those records so differently, especially ones that there wasn't any live footage. Or when you check the live footage, you're like, oh, cool, that's a really good idea. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have done this. So you're then juggling someone actually, I think probably had 3 drummers in Scissors. So I'm juggling 3 different kind of ideas of it. I then got my own idea, and then I've got a musical director that I hopefully can deliver to as well. So actually really difficult. And then the amount of songs, I think we're probably doing about 21 songs. But when you're doing 21 songs in depth and you're going, okay, that's how they're approaching this. And then you get a few different arrangement edits. It was actually really difficult just because of, it wasn't, say, a rock and roll song where it's like boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. That's really easy to go, but that's what I'm going to play. This is stuff that's programmed. And then I'm not playing any electronics, which I have to be honest, I really like. I think often you'd see a lot of electronics in this. So I'm just playing live kit with rototoms, I must add, which I love.
Nice.
Okay. Just because one of the older drummers had done that, and I was like, "Hey, Craig," is the MD, Craig Funder, who's amazing. I was like, "Dude, can I play rototoms?" He's like, "Yes, bring him in." And I play for one song, but I'm all for it.
Yeah. Is it to click any of this stuff? Or?
Yeah, it's all clicking, all click and track. Yeah, because as a band, we are drums, bass, guitar, saxophonist, and then a BV. So we don't have keys, and it's heavily produced.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, there are a few gigs out there now that aren't. I remember listening to your chat with Mark Pusey. I was quite amazed that those guys are doing it live.
Yeah, that was a shock, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the fact that they'll change arrangements at Wembley Stadium.
I think it's quite daunting because I think the click can be, and not in a good way, but can be a crutch. But you don't have to, there's no guesswork of what the tempo is. I mean, you could obviously have an app and you could be like, cool, that's my tempo. But sometimes you don't get time for that. So I do some gigs like that, but I think with a gig like this, it has to be click and track. It needs that for it to really like represent the songs well. So yeah, it's all click and track.
What sort of balance in your headphone, in your in-ears, are you having between click? Are you getting track in your ears as well? Where are you putting things? Are you panning anything? What's your sort of rough levels that you like?
Another great question.
Fuck's sake.
I love that. Really good question. Do you know what it is? It's because I remember moving to London, and these things you just don't know. I didn't go to uni. We don't need to go off on a sidestep there, but these things you don't learn unless you go and do it. So I always find that stuff really interesting. But I think for me, my general rule is that the track, like when you've got a band, yes, click, we're going to need click and we're going to be in time with each other. And you can then move and you can create feel within the band. But when you've got a track, that track isn't moving. So for me personally, track's super important. If there's percussion, especially, like if there's a drum loop or a shaker, I've got to lock to that. And obviously there's give and take and you can kind of push and pull. But if that shaker, if that percussionist essentially isn't moving, then I can't move. So for me, click is obviously, click and drums and track are probably the highest in my mix. I'd probably go like click and drums at the top, track just sitting just below. And then I'll bring in the band, bass especially. I really like to lock in the bass. Especially when I'm playing with somebody like Sam Oddaway on the Jake Shears gig. He's killing bass player. Because it's important that we're a band, we're playing together. But yeah, track does have a big part to play for me anyway. And then vocals tend to sit a little bit lower for me. This isn't directed at any vocalist in particular, but a lot of vocalists don't have maybe a lot of click, or they're focusing on the performance, they're dancing, whatever, that sometimes they can maybe push or pull a little more than the rest of the musicians. That's not always the case, obviously, but I tend to have them a little lower. Obviously, I want to hear them and know where we are, and there might be certain things that I accent, but as a general rule, they're probably sitting at the lowest, really. What about you guys? When you're playing, do you do click and tracks and do all that stuff?
I've done it before ages ago, and I just run a split stereo WAV from my iPad. So I was the only band member with click, and I had that hard pan left, so that just came out of a stereo splitter, and then we had the track sent out right to the front of house. But I think with I play a lot of click in the studio, but not so much live, and mainly the wedding stuff is there's no click or track or anything. But we only switched to in-ears a few years ago, and it just took time, I think, to work out what you want, what you we can control it all on our own mix on our iPads, but working out what you need and what you don't need and what sort of levels. And I think for me, I agree with vocals. I think when I first heard it, I was like, I want to hear the singer, and actually it's like, actually I don't need them that much. I just need a little bit of it. And I think it's just taking that time to find out and different rooms play different parts in how what you kind of need, whether you need the clarity or volume. So yeah, it's just interesting to see what, as you say, like no one really teaches you that, but it's interesting to see what other people kind of prefer. Yeah,
I think as well, like adrenaline plays a big part for us as well. But especially a singer, you find a singer won't want to come out in a sound check and 100% give it everything. So they're probably going to be singing at, let's say, 60, 70%. You put it at that level and then bang, first song, you're like, wow, there you are. So yeah, I think it's about trying to be aware of that stuff as well. You're probably going to play harder as well. I certainly do. I think just as soon as there's an audience there, it picks things up. And there is no right or wrong. Like, I think ultimately it's got to be what makes you feel comfortable for you to do the job that you need to do. So I know and also big difference, great monitor engineer. Like when you have and I remember experiencing it up in Glasgow again, funnily enough. I forget the guy's name, and he was an in-house guy. We were on a tour, actually with a couple of Brighton guys. I don't know if you know Swanee and Ryan Bennett.
Know of them, yeah.
Yeah, I was touring with those guys, and this guy was like, "Oh, can I pan your drums?" Where like my drums went, like my rack tom, high tom was slightly to my left, medium slightly to right, floor was a bit harder pan right, and I had this, and also he just mixed it amazing, EQ'd, and I was like, "Wow, that's a mix." So I also think, and no offense to us if we're doing our own mix on any gigs, but it doesn't compete to somebody who's really, really good. But what about you, George?
Well, I remember, speaking of that, I remember the first time I wore in-ear monitors and it blew my mind. You know, the fact that I could have the kick in my ears and it gives you that feeling of, oh, I am playing loud enough. I think that's always a thing of it, a part of it. You know, you can sort of be playing drums and if you don't have much monitor, you know, going on and you can't hear or feel your kick or snare, you'll really hit it hard and go like, I'm not getting anything back. And you are playing loud enough, you know. But
I think in principle, it's mental to think your kick drum is right there and you can't hear it.
Can't hear it or feel it. I've never had one of those. What is it? The Porter and Davies drum stalls.
The Buttkicker. Yeah. No, do you know what?
But I've always thought, and I know if I had one, I'd never be able to go back to just the stall. Is what I've heard about them.
Yeah, I think the problem is they're quite expensive, so it's quite a punt. And I have sat on somebody's drum and played it, or maybe at a drum show, I don't remember. But we were in rehearsals for the Duran tour, and I think I'd mentioned it. And the TM was like, cool, man, I'll get your Buttkicker. I was like, great, like, love it. And then he turns up the next day, this massive box. It was like this motor. Yeah. So what is this? And I was speaking to Nick, my tech at the time. And I said, dude, he goes, like what you do is you unscrew it, you put it on. Honestly, it was like a moped. And it was, I have to be honest, it was the worst thing I'd ever felt. And I was like, I'm really sorry, I've got to take this off. But it was old school. This isn't like the Porter and Davies one. This is old school, which I thought I was getting. But it was just this weird thing. It was literally so heavy, this motor, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me because also it was literally just at 10. It wasn't. It was very spinal. It was at 11. It's very spinal tap. So yeah, it didn't work for me. But I'd love to try the Porter and Davies. But I'm so used to without it now. Like you said, I think if I got one, there's no turning back.
No, that's it. And you'd want to use it on any gig you did. If you did a pub gig, you'd be like, well, I can't do it without my Porter and Davies seat now. You know?
Yeah.
And the sound engineer from Glasgow. I need all these things.
Get him in.
Do you not know who I am?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does make a big difference though. Great monitor engineer. And I've always said we've kept in touch. It's funny, I don't remember his name and we've kept in touch. But I was like, dude, when the time's right, I just know that he was just so brilliant. Just honestly, a game changer. And it's also a really good thing to learn for ourselves. Like you clearly can do it yourself. I'm not so techie with that stuff. I can turn the volume up or down. But when you talk about EQing, that's not my expertise.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the limits, because most, in my experience, wedding bands, we're providing our own PA, and it's really common now, to use the Behringer XR system, and so we can control our own in-ears, but we can't. The EQ and things like that aren't separate to front of house.
Right. Okay.
So actually, we can just do volume, but if we change the EQ, it affects front of house. It doesn't have that complete separation. And for me, one of the big issues that comes with we play in so many different sorts of rooms, like churches or marquees, teepees, village halls. So specifically with kick drum, if the room is giving you quite a low and boomy sound, so front of house is going to crank a lot more of the snap and click to get the bass drum to punch through, which is great for in-ears because that's what you're getting that EQ into your headphones, so you're getting that top end. If it's the other way round and there's no low end in the room, in your ears you're just getting a really low, because all the low ends had to be boosted, you're just getting a really low unclear. So that's like quite a little bit of a frustration with the XR series, is that you can't EQ or pan anything separate for your own ears. So that would be nice, but so sometimes the room works in your favor and sometimes you just got to get on with it, really.
I think as well, like the reality of being a musician, I think as we all experience, is having perfect sound every night is very unlikely. There's so many factors, like you talk about the room, how you're playing it, how your drums react to that room. Sometimes it is about just having it to a point where it's like, I can work with this. And that is the skill in itself. It's like, I'm able to perform and play the gig tonight and my mix is rubbish. Especially when you talk about, festivals where you go like, right, you're on. That can be a little stressful. But so I think in any setting like that, whatever size the gig, if you're used to having like, cool, I can make this work. All I've got is click in my left ear. Touch wood, that doesn't happen, but you can make the gig work. That's what's important. And I think, again, another skill set that we don't think about, but getting through those challenges under pressure. You know, if you have a bad gig, or not necessarily a bad gig, if you have a bad sound, it can really take up all your energy, and then you forget to look out and enjoy it. And I also understand that. You know, I've definitely been there. But I think, again, another skill set in that scenario is, especially if you're working with an artist, is the artist doesn't want to hear you going, oh, I just had a really shit mix and I've had a really bad gig. That artist might himself or herself might have had a really bad mix, or might have had an amazing gig. And so I think you're going to, in those settings, you got to remember your surroundings, and sometimes be like, I'll deal with this later. You know, I can go speak to the TM and go, hey, like, my mix wasn't great. Can we look at this? Is there any way we can get a bit more time tomorrow? But just picking your moments, I think, is something really important about, especially things like touring. But also, like, people could be jumping off stage and be like, wow, what a gig. And you kind of come off and you're like, oh my God, that was so bad. And actually,
stop clapping, everyone. Sorry. No. Stop clapping.
Yeah.
Click was just a bit too quiet. We're done. We're done here.
Which is stressful. And actually, on that note, again, with the click being too quiet, what I tend to, actually I do on every gig, is I have a mixer. So a lot of people have a pack. I have a mixer and I have a separate click send. So I have a click send on one channel, and then I have a stereo feed of everything else. So if there's any issues where, I don't know, something doesn't feel balanced, or someone's guitar's got really loud, I can just turn that down, turn the click up. It just gives me a little bit of a safety net.
That's cool, yeah.
So that's something I also recommend to people in those sort of situations. Not everybody wants to do that, but for me, trying to communicate with a monitor guy, I mean, we got talkback on the Jake gig, so I could literally talk down a mic and say, could I have this? But that's not always the case. So trying to wave your arms as a drummer can be really tricky. So I think it's kind of picking your battles, and then trying to, you know, with me having the separate click, I think it just offers me that little bit more freedom, that little safety blanket, which is, I think, is really good.
How do you deal with pressure?
What's with all these great questions?
We're 80 episodes in. I kind of like to think I've got a little bit better at doing these. Yeah.
Really good. But I have to say, by the way, on that note, I've really enjoyed your episodes. I've sort of dug in and listened to a few.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're both really good, very comical. So yeah, really great.
Nothing else. There's no drumming skills, so we have to
worm our way in another way.
No, I'm really enjoying it. Pressure, yeah, definitely. And I think, in fact, actually, George, you mentioned upon it, when you build something up in your head, that is often the thing that takes over. So I actually really am quite into psychology of things like, actually, sports psychology is really interesting. And how, you know, I read this, or had an audio book of this amazing book by Trevor Mooa called It Takes What It Takes. And I recommend it to anyone. It's quite a game changer for me. And he specifically works with, like, in sports science, but it's the mental side of things. And he actually talks about neutral thinking. So it's not positive, it's not negative. He's like down the middle. It is what it is. Recommend checking it out. And I definitely bring that, I think, into the music thing. I think it's funny that, you know, we're in a stressful industry. It can be high pressure. It can be full of disappointment and excitement, these highs and lows. And actually what we don't talk about a lot is that kind of psychology or mental health, or those things, which are, you know, I'm a big advocate for. So I think for me is I really like to get focused, and that's not for every gig. Like, if I'm playing a blues gig, I'm not out the back, you know, for an hour and a half, like meditating, you know, that's not happening. But if you know, with the recent Duran shows, that was our first shows with Jake. So I definitely felt an element of pressure. You know, it wasn't from I knew I could do the job. I knew we were well rehearsed. I knew everything was like in place to have a great show. But there's still an element of like, wow, this is, you know, it's big rooms, big pressure. So I remember the first night, I didn't really warm up. I was just super chill. And then I just felt a little tense the first few songs. Like, songs were fine, but I didn't feel 100% there.
Was that a physical tense or a mental tense?
It was a physical thing, but I think it was from a mental place. You could call it maybe nerves. It was definitely, I just didn't feel where I wanted to be on that first note. And I think a lot of what I enjoy out of musicians is conviction and really meaning every note and coming in on note one. Like, I mean it, like a Taylor Hawkins, from note one, he's in, Dave Grohl, those guys. So the next gig, I decided that, right, I was going to warm up casually for like an hour and a half. We've got to get changed in that time. So I'll casually get changed. I'll do a bit of pad work. I'll do some stretches. Some people listen to music. I don't. I just like to get in a bit of a place. I do the Tommy Igoe rudiments. They tend to like zone me in. I think for me, it was just about being focused. But I think you've got to be careful you don't go too far one side and then start overthinking it. And, but yeah, for me, definitely, I like to get focused before a show and be in the right headspace. And, I want to play a great show every night. So yeah, for me, I'm probably about on sort of those bigger shows, like an hour and a half before I've said bye to any friends that I've quickly met for a coffee or coming to watch a show. I'm going back, slowly getting changed, slowly getting warmed up. So by the time we're ready to walk to stage, like I want to be there, focused for sure.
On that topic, I wanted to ask about, I was looking through your Instagram, and in 2018 you did a post about hitting a wall with drumming, and you weren't enjoying it. Yes. I thought, not to bring up old things from your past, but I was really interested by it because it's not something everyone says on Instagram. Instagram is where you show the best parts of your career or whatever you're doing. I just thought it was really interesting that you said, hey everyone, I've hit a wall with my drumming and I'm not enjoying it. First of all, do you remember posting that?
Do you know what I'm going to say? Great research. I don't remember posting that. Definitely social media has evolved for me and probably everyone over the years. It's definitely, it's a place that I can send people or people can find me potentially. I do think there should be an element of honesty. I also think now I probably am a bit more business minded, where it's like, this is a work page, this is what I post. So I probably don't post so much like that now. I don't know that post, and that's interesting you say that. I don't remember it. But now you mention it, there's something coming back that probably, did it sound like it was about my playing?
I think it was. And
yeah.
My question was just going to be, how did you get past that? How did you get past hitting the wall in your drumming?
And what was it about drumming you weren't enjoying?
Well, I don't remember that specific time, but I probably, like a lot of us, I definitely remember those times, like maybe a different time. And I would say being inspired, being around good people, sometimes it can be about an opportunity. There are some people that I play with that just really inspire me. And whenever I'm on tour, I'm like, give me an album. I want to check that out. So I've definitely hit those moments. And sometimes it can get a little bit just music heavy all the time. Sometimes I think it's good to take a step back. I think it's good to be like, cool, what's around me? I have so many things to be grateful for. I've got a great family. I've got a great partner. We've got a little puppy. I get to enjoy those things now. So I think actually the puppy's been quite amazing. Like, I've just been for a walk this morning. Like, how often did I used to go for a walk in the morning and just go for a walk and pick up dog poo? Like, it didn't happen. Yeah. It would, So I think having things outside of music is really important, but hitting a wall is also fine, and be inspired, chat to people about it. And I think that's it. Reach out. Like, I've done things like therapy for probably 5 or 6 years of my life. And I know it's not a huge thing in England. It's massive in America, but I think it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Anything even when things are, when I've got lots to celebrate and I'm really happy, it's good to share that. It's good to talk it out. And I love having a session after going on tour and just kind of releasing that and how I felt. And I think there's also, there's a lot of self-improvement in that, but also from a work standpoint of like, how did I deal with that situation? Like you mentioned earlier, even with an in-ear mix, or how did I deal with that? How could I deal with it better? So those things are really important for me. I think I love meditating's great, therapy's great, being inspired, reaching out to friends, and also stepping away from music would be probably my advice on that.
Yeah. What sort of things have you got outside of drums then?
I'm a big football
Aside from
fan.
the puppy. Yeah.
Yeah, big football fan, West Ham fan. So we just won the European Cup.
Oh yeah, you must be happy.
Very happy.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Keep Moyes or is Moyes done?
What a great question. You know what? I was Moyes out for a very long time, especially before the World Cup. I was like, he has to go. This is the time. I think at this point, you got to keep him. Obviously, I think we all know as West Ham fans what kind of football we're going to get next year. I think we could spend big. What's going to happen with Rice? I'm saying Moyes in. Are you football fans, you two?
Yeah, like
To a point, yeah.
mainly England, but Portsmouth are my local team, so just
Great,
watch them lose every week. Not live. I just my watch pings. Oh, 1-0 down. Cool. I'm off to do a gig. Cheers.
Yeah.
I used to go and watch Havant and Waterlooville play. They were my close team. It was a non-league team, so it was very like there was only ever like 20 people that would show up to the games, and you could shout at the players, and they'd shout back. It was that kind of vibe.
Love that. Legit
that was...
sort of Saturday
You
football.
live share home with them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah.
So West Ham football.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Things outside of that. So, do you know, I haven't had much time recently, but I quite like surfing. That was a big thing. That friend of mine
By the
introduced
coast
me.
now.
Yeah, well, they're not really a surfing coast,
No.
if I'm honest. So really,
You make them a surfing coast. You could start the trend.
Yeah, with just a flat wave and.
Oh right, as in,
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
thought you meant like they didn't have the community or something.
No, the community's fine. No. I mean, you could probably surf in certain areas. It's just not really known for it. But yeah, North Devon was where I used to go a lot because I grew up in Somerset.
Nice.
But I didn't find that until I was sort of early 20s. Some friends introduced it to me, and it was probably the most amazing thing I've ever done. It's actually just really healing. It's I always find being by the sea is good for the soul. So things like that. Yeah, football. I like football and boxing. The dog takes up a lot of my time. Also, just a bit like I know it's our job as well, but I absolutely love playing drums. I'm just a big music nut. Like I collect vinyl, not like collector's things, just to listen to enjoy. So I'm big into that as well.
Nice. Do you have a kit set up at your place, or is it you have to go to a studio?
I've got a place. I've got about 10 minutes away. So that's great. So it's not a studio per se. It's just a practice space and it's storage, and that's great. And it's 24 hours. So that really works well for me because I used to have a place in London, and they're just so expensive. We'd have a place like 4 of us have to have it and share it because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas I've got my own space now, and it's brilliant. So that's really good. Although I haven't practiced so much recently, I tend to find that when I come off from a run of shows, I sometimes just like to switch off for a little bit, unless I really have to like learn some stuff. But I also found that the lead up to this gig, it was quite heavy in the sense of the amount of songs I had to do. So I was in there every day, and so that was pretty intense, really. So I think it's quite nice just to switch off for a bit, because it's nice to practice for enjoyment opposed to it being like this grueling schedule. I think I've been through all the stages. You get the stage of I have to learn this for work, then you get the I'm going to do this because I really enjoy it, whether that's learning songs or just going in to play, and then you get the like structured thing of like here's something in front of me and I'm going to practice that. So I really go through these phases, and I've heard you guys mention a lot. Is it Pat? Yeah. So you guys pretty into your learning?
Well, I am now.
George is.
Yeah, no, I am now. Because it was something I just wasn't doing before.
George, do you think, would you describe it as hitting a wall? And that's why you went to Pat?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was last year. Basically, all the gigs I did, I never felt like I was nailing it. Not even close. I never felt like I was, it was like I'd get the job done and I'd play the songs, and, no one in the band complained or anything. But me personally, I felt like I'm really not as good as I feel I could be at the drums. In terms of like, I didn't feel loose. I just felt, I don't know, I didn't feel like I could just go off and do something different. If that makes sense within the beats or within whatever I was playing. It felt like I knew the songs just enough, and I'd sort of watch other drummers who were, could throw in fills or, explore their instrument a bit more. And I thought, how do I do that? So basically, I started having lessons with Pat Garvey, who still is head of drums at BIM when I was there. And and we haven't gone back to basics, but it's very much sort of, I've been having lessons for a year now, and we're doing, Moella and Gladstone and just working on technique. And it is great because I am starting to see like an improvement. Even on the weekend, I had a gig on Saturday, and it's like there's these little moments where you're thinking, oh, I couldn't do that before, and that's what's inspiring to me, because I think I thought I want to get better as a drummer and do better things, but I didn't know how. And I sort of went to Pat, and I near enough said, help, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, well, let's just look at your plan. Let's start there, because I was coming at it from different angles. I said, do I need to be better at Ableton, or do I need to be better at marketing myself, or do I need to be better at this? And he was like, just let's start with your playing, So practicing is now a big part of my day, and it's a way to feel accomplished, I think, even if you haven't got gigs going on or something. That's something I've found. It's like if I don't do a gig all week, but I'm practicing every day, I think, well, at least I've done that, But it's all good. I was going to ask what your sort of practice routine is at the moment.
Well, I think you touched upon like discipline. Discipline's like a big thing in life, I think. And you talk about headroom, which is something that I'm working on as well, or trying to work on. So playing the song and you're here, but you're able to reach out if you need to. So similarly, I have a guy called Pete Riley I sometimes go to. Also really rate Stu Roberts. He's in Brighton. Great teacher. So it's a little sporadic for me because just with work, it's really hard to get a bit of a routine. It's maybe slightly easier in maybe sort of winter when it's a little bit quieter maybe. But this time of year is really difficult. But I also think that if you want to find time, you can find it.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I think with learning, what's really important is gravitating towards something that really turns you on musically. And I go through these phases of going, right, I'm going to do some jazz and I'll do a bit of this. And then I get excited for a little bit. And then I just slowly creep back to where I want to be. And so I want to be doing this stuff. So I think that I struggle with. But I also realize, I think on that note, what's been really important for me in my career, and it took me some years, but finding my lane and realizing who I was as a drummer, what I felt were my strengths, weaknesses, having that awareness that clearly you have as well when you talk about wanting that headroom and wanting to learn. And then realizing that, okay, I want to go down that route. I want to be that guy. I absolutely agree that if you go and play jazz or you go and play Latin, it adds stuff to your playing. But me personally, I'm just not trying to go and be the top jazz guy, the top Latin guy, because I wouldn't be that guy. So I think always constantly trying to add to that, but realizing like, this is who I am. And really, I would just try and catch a wave and be like, okay, I'm inspired by this. I'm really like, if I remember when I first worked, I'm going back a few years now, but with a band called Gold Ray, who are like a prog rock band. So that's Ken Winhouse from Reef. It was his prog band. And I got the call and he's like, are you free next week to learn this stuff? I was like, cool. Yeah, I'm free. Let me listen to the stuff. I knew it was prog. And my first thing is like, oh, is odd times really my thing? Like, yeah, I can play odd time, but I wouldn't say I'm certainly not a master. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm around. And I scheduled it for a week and got the gig done. And then I was inspired to be like, cool, I'm going to go and delve down this now. I'm going to ask them about their favorite records, what inspired them for their stuff. So then I'll go down a bit of an odd time thing, or, I'll get a different gig and then I'll be really inspired about that. And it might be more electronic, or even with the Jake thing. Jake is such a, knowledgeable guy when it comes to music. We talk about all these great records. So like he gave me some great recommendations. So I've been really getting into like Talking Heads, and then you hear that stuff. And then I start thinking about sound. Like sound's a big thing for me. I'm not, I do go through phases going, I'm going to work on this exercise, but really I get such a kick out of playing and getting a good sound from my instrument and thinking about the relationship between the hats, the kick and the snare, thinking about groove, thinking about time. the things that I think are the things that get you employed. So I spend a lot of time on that. And then over the last few years, especially done quite a lot of studio stuff, that for me has really taught me a lot, because you're then in a room with a producer and you're listening back. You're like, cool, let's work on this. Let's get that sound, or let's change the beat there. Okay, that tuning, like all these things that are like quite deep stuff and really hard to learn. I think mainly through experience. I think you learn it. That's where I've grown as a musician. And there's definitely room for me to be working on some technical stuff, but it's just not naturally where I want to go. I think the art form that is maybe lost with the young generation is listening to music. Like we've got Spotify and all these things where we can listen to anything we want. That is the most, listen to the greats, listen to your Jeff Porcaros and all those guys, and think about their sound, how they got that sound. Think about drum choices. That's the big thing for me, I think, as a musician. So that probably turns me on musically the most.
Let's move on to sound, and let's move on to kits. What you're currently rocking?
So for the Jake Shears gig, I'm running a Yamaha Maple Custom Absolute, which I got from London Drum Company when I first moved to London in 2013. So that is, it's 10, 12, 16, 22 kick, and I run 2 snares. I'm running actually running a 70s Acrolite, which is really nice because it's a bit of a drier drum. I do find with that snare, it has to have a fresh head on, because as soon as it starts to be a little bit dead, like the drum just becomes really dull. So the Acrolite, and then on my left, I've got a Pearl Sensor Tone brass drum, which is a bit more down-tuned. And then, yes, cymbals, Istanbul. So I play pretty big cymbals. Well, on this gig, I'm playing 15 hats. I think it's 19, 20 crashes to my left, 24 ride.
I was going to say, the ride looked fucking huge.
It's amazing. It's a Joey Waronker signature. I don't know if you know Joey. Have you ever watched the Drum Doctor things on YouTube?
Ben,
No, I don't think I have.
Right.
Ben nicknamed himself the Drum Doctor.
Did you? Do you know what? I think there's a Drum Doctor before you. I'm gonna have to.
Well, I saw that the Netflix Count Me In, and I think it's the Drum Doctors on there. And I was like, oh, well, Neil just called me it because if a band brought a kit into the studio that I own to record, it would usually sound gash. So he'd just get me in and I'd just tune it up and sort it out.
Amazing.
Drum Doctor came, but obviously it's been taken, and I will happily concede the name.
What can we change it to?
Drum Guru. There's so many things you could be.
Yeah.
Drum Nurse. I was going to ask quickly, when you say fresh heads on the snare, is that every night, fresh head?
No, I would do it based on how it felt come the end of the show. I would be able to tell my in-ears, I think. Yeah. I would say probably 3 shows, maybe 2, but probably 3, I'd say. And that's something I keep an eye on. Yeah, and I'll kind of have those conversations with the tech on that gig, like, what are you feeling? But really, I think on those kind of situations, it's my decision. I think although I've got tech and they're great and they're going to change it and tune it, make it sound great, I think it's my responsibility to be like, I think I need this. Ultimately, it's still me delivering that sound. The toms, I haven't changed since we started. So basically with the tour, when we started, they get me a bunch of heads and sticks, and that'd be kind of what they think will be the last, will last the whole summer. But the toms, we haven't changed yet. They're still sounding good. So I'm kind of with that stuff. If it sounds good, it's the same with any drum. If it sounds good, I'm not going to really mess with it. Yeah. But I just know with the Acrolite, and I found it in rehearsals. We had 8 days rehearsals when we first started. By about day 4, bear in mind you're doing it for 6 to 8 hours playing. Your head's going to be pretty dead. Yeah. So sort of day 4 or 5, I was like, oh, this drum sounds so bad. And actually the front house came to me and was like, dude, I'm not feeling the snare. I was like, cool, let's change it. And then instantly it was like, yeah, it's got new life. So I keep an eye on that stuff. But yeah, back to the Drum Doctor thing, check it out. So actually my favorite drummer is Abe Labori Jr. Big fan, but he did an interview with the Drum Doctor. I think they were doing this through COVID, but Joey Waronker's on there as well. And he's such an interesting player. He's lefty. He plays really light. but he's currently with, I think, Roger Walters at the moment. But he's playing on some great, like, big session guy in LA. But that's it. Yeah, his signature ride, 24-inch. And I think most people see these big cymbals and they go, wow, that's massive. But I think they have such a huge dynamic range that you really can play lightly because you've got to move a lot of cymbal, or you can really hit it hard. So, yeah, I tend to just gravitate towards bigger cymbals. So, yeah, I have, and then another 2 20-inch crashes. One's an Exist and one's a Dark Crash, I think. I'm not that geeky of gear, if I'm honest. I'm a bit like, does it sound good?
Yeah.
And then Echo Belly, who I'm out with this year as well, which is a 90s Britpop band. I'll play my steel kit on that one, actually. That's quite fun. So I've got a steel kit. So it's 22, 14-inch rack tom, 16, 18 floor. So it's pretty big. And then I'll play, do you know what? Because my 24 ride is actually going to be on the Jake gig, I'll play a 22 ride. I've got a 22 Crash, which is the best Crash I've ever owned.
Wow.
And then 16-inch hats. But it works for that gig, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
It's amazing. A 22-inch Crash.
Yeah, it's really great. But also you could like ride on it as well.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that for me is inspired by John Bonham, Abe. You know, I certainly come from like a rocky background for sure. And the cymbals have just got bigger and bigger over the years. And honestly, I think it's one of those things that as soon as you try them, I think it's like, wow, a bit of a game changer because it does have a huge dynamic range.
We've got a new Crash and Ride, and both of them I've gone up 1 inch. So I was 18 Crash, 20 Ride. I've now got a 19 Crash and a 20, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I think I feared them.
Right.
Are these too big? But then I tried out loads of different ones, and I think we're going to talk about this more in depth next week. But and you're like, okay, yeah, 21 Ride. That's branching out bigger. Maybe I'll just keep going an inch at a time, and then that be up to a 24-inch ride, maybe. But
definitely try one. Like if you're, I don't know what you Graham Russell's your local shop, I guess.
Yeah.
If there's anything in there, try it out. It feels a bit different. I think the problem is though, I now like if I get on a kit, if there was an 18-inch Crash, it feels really small to me. I think that's the only thing.
That'd be a splash for you, isn't it? An 18-inch splash.
Yeah, you're mashing. Sorry, I do have a splash on this gig as well, actually.
What's that? Is that 18-inch?
It's actually 19, I think, yeah. And then I've got 2 22-inch, and it's a stack, yeah.
2 ride cymbals as your hi-hats.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine moving that weight. I can't remember who got me into that. Yeah, it probably was inspired by Abe and Bonham. And then I moved to Istanbul, I guess, I don't know now, probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And again, actually, a friend of mine, Guillaume, amazing drummer in London, he had some amazing cymbals, Istanbul stuff. So he probably got me into that as well, actually. I think he put me in touch with Istanbul. So that's just where I'm at range-wise. And I don't think, like I have a 19 in my setup if I need something a little bit faster and brighter. But I haven't found in any setting yet that nobody is into the bigger cymbals. And also like studio stuff, I'll take a bunch of cymbals with me and drums. Often I've got a car full of drums and we just use the same stuff every time. Like everyone loves the Ludwig kit and everyone loves the Joey ride and all this stuff. So, but also I would say that my style of playing has probably drawn me to those kind of drums and cymbals.
Speaking of different gigs, there's a gig we can't not discuss.
I know where this is going. We could be in it.
Well, Ben and I did a photo shoot where we tried to dress like Right Said Fred. So
yeah, we took inspiration from one of their videos, and we thought we're halfway there with the look. We just need the string vest and leather pants.
Yeah.
What did you wear?
String vest.
Oh, you did, right?
Yeah. I can't remember.
Ben didn't even have to buy them. He already had them in his wardrobe.
I had to tone it down.
Did you shave your beards though? No, what
I didn't. No.
You didn't really commit then, did you?
No, not that much.
Disappointed, to be honest. What do you want to know about Right Said Fred? I should have cancelled that off my CV before you guys got in touch. Or as soon as you got in touch, take it off the CV so you didn't know.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest with you, Johnny. When when we were looking for guests, and I had looked for your Instagram. I was like, oh my God, plays for Right Said Fred. Ben was like, get him on. Oh my God, never needed a guest more. I don't even know what to ask.
I don't even know what
about.
I don't know what to answer. Yeah.
Okay. Here's
is it as good as we think it is?
Yeah.
Like, is it as fun? You know, like, I don't know. Is it just another job? But is it? How many songs do they have? I mean,
well, that's always the question. Actually, they had two big hits, right? They had "I'm Too Sexy" and "Deeply Dippy." I have to be honest, I didn't remember Deeply Dippy. So the gig came about, if I remember correctly, a TM/manager, I know Steve, he gave me a call for it. And I remember probably doing a couple of years with them, like some festivals. We went to Abbey Road and re-recorded, like did this live album. I don't think the album got released, but they released a couple of the songs. But there was something quite amazing being in Abbey Road, listening back to "I'm Too Sexy," and it's quite funny because I remember there's some video footage, I'd have to find it, where everybody's filming at this point because it's a moment you want to remember, but we're all filming each other, and everyone's just crying with laughter because it's quite ridiculous, the whole thing. The gig itself, at first, when you get to go there's how many fills are that iconic?
Yeah.
So that felt good. We played some interesting festivals. They're old school. Like, I heard some really amazing stories from them that I probably won't share. It's a different time. Like, I've worked with a few sort of heritage acts, I guess, from Right Said Fred, Echobelly, Kenwin in Gold Ray was in Reef, Kathy Dennis, like some of these older artists, they've got some amazing stories. And it was a very different time, the industry back then, even from record sales to how they approached albums. In fact, Echobelly have just asked me to do their next album. So that'll be my first record with them. But I've heard some of the stories when they were doing their third record, and there was a huge budget. Like, it was massive, and things are just so different now. The stories that I heard back then, they don't really happen now. But in terms of that gig, it was a good band. I think at the time you had Matt Bramall as MD. I remember a horror story from a gig, if you want that.
Oh, yes.
So we were playing a festival. This is a good one. I think it was called Pigstock. And I don't think it was quite in Somerset. Maybe it was just outside. So it was like close to where I grew up. And
it's going to be down west, isn't it? If it's called Pigstock.
Absolutely West Country. Yeah. And just before us was a band called the Wurzels. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
One of the, what a great album, Top of the Crops. That's another story entirely. But they were on just before us, and the drummer, I think actually, unfortunately, the drummer's died now, but he was sort of on stage with an oxygen mask, and it was this bizarre thing. These guys are still going. Anyway, watched the Wurzels, and it was brilliant. And then we were on, and I remember we were playing this song, and there's a break in the middle way where it's just guitar. It's just Fred. So there's two of them, right? So Fred. There's Fred on guitar, and he's doing this da, 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 da. And so we kind of come out, he's playing his guitar part completely out of time with click, like not even close. to the point that someone's he's playing, you don't know where the one is. There's you don't know which one is the one. There's no accent, it's just a click. But he's shifted time so much that we're all looking at each other like no clue. And of course, what does everyone do? They look at the drummer. They're like, drummer, where's the one? I'm like, I wish I knew. So we start, he's looking at me, he's fumbling around, and I'm starting to build the song. I'm doing hats and floors, so I'm building it. We're going in for it. And I was like, you know what, whatever happens, I've got to commit. And of course, we're to track. So that's where the problem is going to come in. It's when the track comes in, bang on the chorus. If we're not on the one, it's going to be a shambles. I'm building, right? You got to imagine, like, everyone's looking at me. They're excited, scared. I'm going, I've got this. I've literally just saved the day. I come in, bang, it's nowhere near the one. We're like, because no one knows where the one is. Then the track comes in. I remember Matt was on Ableton, so he quickly shifted it, and he did save us. But it was just like, one of those moments you go, just get me out of here.
Yeah.
move on to our final question. You might know where this is headed if you've listened before, but who's your favourite delivery company?
You know what? Since I've heard your podcast, I can't get this out of my head, this question, because I was like, I want to give a great answer. But I think it's just DPD.
Yeah.
You've got to be true to yourself, you know.
It's like you get the text, they're going to be here between this time, and you get an email. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
DPD,
go.
Yeah. That's it.
Another one for DPD.
Any horror stories with other delivery companies?
No, not that I recall.
Okay.
I don't think so.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah.
That's what we want. Right.
Thanks so much for coming on the show, Jonny.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it and really enjoying all your episodes. So I will keep checking in and but hopefully see you guys soon. You know, if we've got a show. So you're Portsmouth, right?
I'm Portsmouth. Yeah. George is Brighton.
I'm Brighton.
Got you. Well, if you guys, if I'm down that way and you want to come to a show, we should hang out.
Yeah.
Grab coffee or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jonny.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Speak soon.
There we go.
That was it. That was the interview. Hope you enjoyed.
Yeah.
But no, I should probably do some more outro.
Do you want to talk about Cambridge?
No. No, it's gone. Forget it.
No?
No.
Were you working, or was this a pleasure visit?
Pleasure visit.
Okay.
I went punting. Have you ever been punting?
No, it's not for me.
It's not for you.
I'd fall in.
No, it's not as unbalanced as one would imagine.
I'm top heavy.
Well, yeah, but still, it's not. It's all right. I didn't. I did. At no point did I think I was going to fall in.
Okay.
Lovely evening. It was a bit like Hogwarts. I'd never been to Cambridge before, but I know you've been.
Have you not?
No.
Yeah. Well, my brother went to university there.
Ah.
Yeah. I went to one of their summer balls.
Mm.
Like, extravagant.
Yeah.
For essentially a uni party.
Yeah.
Fucking insane.
Honestly, I thought I was on a film set at points.
If you're
People
hiring a
cycling
Helter
by.
Skelter.
Yeah. Shall I tell you the funniest bit?
They had the Mystery Jets play.
When I went punting, right, there were these three lads who had got a punt. I think, is it a boat or a punt? Let's call it a punt.
I think call it a punt.
Yeah, so they'd got a punt and they'd moored it on a bit where you're not meant to moor it. They'd stopped the punt and they were sat there with like bottles of cider or whatever, and they looked, teenage age. And I thought, oh my God, Cambridge is so posh. That's the Cambridge equivalent of loitering outside a Tesco
with
Express
a shopping trolley,
with some cans, or do you know what I mean?
Wheeling a shopping trolley while having a bottle of cider.
But I thought they've had to pay 56 quid to get on that punt, and and they look like they're just hanging about. And I thought,
so did you have someone doing the punting?
No,
for
we
you?
did it ourselves, me and Alfie. Yeah.
Do you have the choice?
You have the choice, yeah. You can get a guided tour, but she's done it before because she went to uni in Cambridge, not at Cambridge Uni, but in Cambridge.
Oxford Brookes.
And she said if you get someone punting it for you, I don't know what the correct verb is, they'll end up talking to you and you have to make conversation. You don't really want
like
that.
a hairdresser.
Yeah. Oh, you've been on your holiday.
I'm
on holiday. Yeah. I'm trying to relax.
Yeah, and you're ruining it.
Yeah. So
just punt.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, Cambridge was lovely.
Why did you go to Cambridge?
Well, it's where she used to go to uni, and she's always wanted to show me certain bits of it. So there was this place she used to go to that did the best dumplings in Cambridge, and what else is there? Some old family friends live there, so we popped in to see them. Just this and that, went to our little spots. There's David Mitchell's favourite pub there. Who went there? Just. Was
he there?
No, he wasn't. Sadly,
can't be his favourite then.
This is it. He was slacking. But yeah, now I feel like I've talked too much about Cambridge. Yeah, no, that was a good interview with Jonny. I thought.
Yeah.
He's had a wonderful career so far. Continues to do so.
Yeah. Fucking big cymbals.
Massive cymbals.
Yeah.
Huge. It was.
Yeah.
It made me laugh when he said, "Oh, if I had to play an 18-inch crash, it would feel too small." And I was thinking, I've just bought a 16-inch crash.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's a splash to him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a splash.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, email. Get in touch. Spread the word. You know, if you like what we're doing, tell people.
Yeah. Message in. Ask us a question. Any question.
Yeah. Big
Doesn't
time.
have to be drum related.
No, just have you been punting in Cambridge?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, all right, let's go. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.